Good morning. Okay, so today we are recording in the podcast studio. That's why you might hear an echo here. And I'm making more YouTube videos, and that's where we're putting our energy this year, the team and I. And I cannot wait to make so many more videos so that I can share the message I have for everyone and just perspectives and things that have clicked for me, right? That just kind of make sense now. And one of the things that has been very, very clear to me lately is that as you grow in consciousness, as you grow in understanding and embodying that into wisdom, certain people are not going to understand that and they're going to be triggered. And the next level to that of the person not being triggered but actually being the trigger is people understanding that once you have healed something inside yourself, you become a trigger to other people that aren't ready to hear the truth, don't want to pay attention to it because then it's a call to action for them to change, or because they straight are not in benefit of acknowledging that that is a truth. Okay, it doesn't mean it's the truth, it means it's a truth. So I'm sharing this with all of you because if you peep this concept and this understanding, you will rock with me in understanding that at one point or another in your healing journey as a human being, you will be someone's trigger. And so now I'm realizing that I am people's trigger. I am people's trigger for a lot of things. And I've actually been looking at, for the first time ever, the comments that are on my YouTube channel, and I'm so excited and happy because it's triggering some people to be like, what the hell is she talking about? Like, what does that mean? What is she, how dare she, who does she think she is? The audacity to tell healers to charge their worth, right? And on one of the videos that I'm going to actually show you guys right now, that video not only made the biggest impact it's ever made in my entire career, it helped me understand what an actual viral piece of content on social media can do in its benefit and helping people wake up. But not only that, and what it can do for you specifically in understanding your message, your light, and what makes you different than other people, and what helps you be that unique factor when it comes to marketing. So it's important to understand that marketing more than anything is identity. And when you understand your identity and who you are outside of your family, outside of what society tells you should be, but you're just freaking authentic to the core of your being, it's going to trigger people. It's going to have them say, ouch. And it lights something up inside others that say, either, wow, she's right, she has the courage to share that, be that, and do it with no absolute shame or fear of being who they are, authenticity. Or it's an invitation to others to look inside themselves and look at them and say, why do I feel like I want to do that, but I am not there yet, I have fear, whatever it might be. And it always goes back and it stems to the following. It's so painful to literally embody this because it's a piece of the people-pleasing part. People-pleasing is not love, it's fear. It's you being in fear of whatever it is that other people will not understand about you. People-pleasing is something you do out of fear that they might discover your authenticity and who you are. And so you say yes to your family, you say yes to those beloveds, you say yes to friends when really you're just not really in it to win it. So you might as well just say no because you're going against yourself. You are the first and foremost person that's going to betray yourself. And that's what triggers other people. So the more authentic you become, the more you just are who you are and you just show up. That's what's gonna rock people the wrong way. And that's when you're not even triggering them. You are the trigger because there's nothing left but for you to show up exactly as you are and who you are. And so when I made this video, and we placed it actually on Facebook, we placed it on Instagram, we placed it everywhere, YouTube, right? It did so freaking well. It literally blew up to where it surprised me and my team, where we were like, damn, this thing literally almost hit 1 million, like not 1,000, 1 million views. And we were wondering why, what about this specifically did that? And we realized because it was the most authentic I had ever been in my entire freaking career before I retired as a psychotherapist. How I just said it how it was. And I want to be clear, I didn't do it with dissidence and I didn't do it with malice in any single way, but I did it with so much authenticity that I just spoke on the industry for health and wellness professionals that it hurt. That some people were like, ouch, I don't know what it is about this, but there's something inside me that's being called to connect with this and for me to say something's wrong here. How is it that I'm being paid way less than I deserve? I'm being overworked, burnt out, and all the things, right? All the things. Yet I still have this calling to help other people. I still have this calling inside me to show up as a better provider and not burnt out and not resenting what it is that I'm doing. And I spoke about it so clearly, no script. I didn't practice. I literally just got up there and I did my thing. And I did that because it was already embodied in me. It was already a part of my truth. I want to be clear, it was part of my truth. And people were like, damn, that said a lot about insurance companies, about how effed up the mental health, wellness, medical system is set up. Damn straight. It's not meant for you to heal. It's not meant for you to get better. If anything, the system we have here in the US is for you to stay the same or get worse because they benefit, because it's a business. Literally, healing, medical, and any of the above healthcare in the United States is not meant to heal you. Because if it was, it wouldn't be beneficial. Because if it was, they would be teaching us things that keep people healthy, that teach them the psychoeducation, the education you need to lead healthy lives, to lead a healthy family, to lead a healthy pregnancy, whatever it might be. My domain years ago was mental health, and to be honest with you, still I see this. I see this happening to where somebody goes in, they share the symptomology, they share what's going on, they pop them some pills, they give them a temporary Band-Aid solution, and yet there's no change. And that's why I advocate for that. The number one thing that needs to change is the person. It's the etiology, it's the root of the problem. And I'm so tired of seeing things being taught in a way that's like, well, just go to therapy. No, that's a piece of the puzzle, but that's not everything. You can't heal in an environment that made you sick. Let me repeat that. You cannot heal in the environment that made you sick. And so what does that mean? That means that if we're only treating the symptomology, if we are only treating what the person is coming in and saying, hey, here's the issue, here's the problem that I'm having, we're doing the individual, the patient, the client, whatever it is you want to call it, a disservice. Community. Jesus, you know what, to even be honest with you, I think the whole collective, when people talk about the conscious collective and, the whole, la comunidad, the community, it's the person that needs to first look at, why does this continue to happen, right? So I'll share as an example, I've been exploring tremendously, a lot of my family roots, a lot of the patterns, a lot of the genealogy, and also the toxicity. I've divorced 99% of my family on both sides. Didn't matter if it was mom's side or dad's side, because I kept seeing things where I'm like, I cannot not look at this anymore. I can't look and shun my face and then just turn the cheek to the fact that women were disrespected in my family. Women were not taught to speak up for themselves, and I'm the black sheep. I'm the black sheep because I speak up, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Why does my tia not have access to the bank account? Make that make sense, right? That's financial abuse. And the moment I said that, they're in shock and they're like, oh, what do you mean? Like, we love her. And I'm like, that's not love, that's abuse. And they don't see it as fiduciary abuse because they don't know. But I also had to understand an extremely difficult and painful lesson that if somebody is not ready or open to seeing that something is happening to them, they are either going to enable it or they're going to wake up and decide if they want to do something about it or not. And unfortunately, in my family, it's so deeply rooted, certain ideas, limiting beliefs, and just the level of consciousness that is not there. Like, it's just not, unfortunately. And there is no desire for that growth or that authenticity to bloom, that things just stay the same. But I refuse to be a part of the problem, because that would be me enabling that behavior if I continue to stay and be like, oh yeah, that's fine. And then I just pretend and be there and say, hey, family member, how are you doing? Oh, things are fine, great, perfect. I cannot not see it anymore because my level of consciousness and awareness is there. I would be betraying myself and not be willing to see it. So then people ask all the time, they say, Z, so how do you know the difference between observation and judgment? That's very easy, because if I'm observing it, I am unbiased and I am just seeing it for what it is, right? It's literally when people say, it is what it is, girlfriend, it is what it is. Now, when it's judgment, that's different. I'm emotionally invested and I'm triggered by it. And there's something about it that I'm like, ooh. And then there's this judgment of me placing my own truth onto them as the absolute truth, when in reality, that's not what it is. They can live in their world. They can live in their truth. It doesn't mean I need to be a part of it, enable it, or allow it to continue in my own life, in my own relationships, and in my own dynamics with partners and families and children and family members. That is the difference. And when I learned this, it was so empowering. It was so empowering. I literally had people say, damn, either you absolutely don't care at all or you have the courage of a lioness. I have the courage of a lioness because it's extremely dangerous. When people say, I don't care, I don't give an F, I don't care about this, that's belligerent. That's kind of in the space of like not caring about other people's feelings with empathy and compassion and consciousness. But it's another thing when you want to become aware of something, and it's literally what Maya Angelou says, and I love her. She's so woke, right? Like it was what she passed. She says, do what you can with what you have and what you know, but the moment you know better, you gotta do better. And that's the issue. That is the issue, that so many people around you, and maybe even it's you, maybe I'm speaking to you, know specifically that something needs to change, that something is already not okay, that something ain't clicking, something feels off, especially women and men too. Like people that have their intuition and their consciousness raised, they know when something's off. The vibe is off, the feeling, the frequency, whatever it is you want to call it, right? That niggling feeling, that je ne sais quoi, no sé qué, whatever language it is that you speak, you don't know what it is and you can't put your finger on it, but you know something's off. That is exactly what I'm talking about. And the worst thing in the world is when you have that and you do nothing about it, because that is the first betrayal. And that's the hardest thing to explain to people when they're like, wait, what do you mean? I'm not doing that. No, you are, because you're contributing to it, because you already know. Poignant example. Let's talk about this situation with Target, Amazon, and all those other companies right now that stopped the diversity initiatives that they used to have. Comes in new leadership, okay? Comes in new leadership, switches the game up and says, we're out with all of this and everybody else leads. We have a couple situations, people. Leaders will show up in times of crises, right? That's the only time you will find out when someone is a true leader. It's so easy to be a leader when things are good. I would know, trust me, it's so easy. You can show up, things are beautiful, money's coming in, opportunities are coming in, people are begging to work with you. Clients, partnerships, team members, people are like, damn, like it's amazing over here. That's not the issue. Real true leaders will show up in times of crises, because then they have to show up and then you get to see how healed and how much of a leader they actually have embodied, right? And we're going to see this for the next couple of years in this country. We're going to see who says they're a leader and who's an actual leader. And I want to be clear, it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on politically, just in general, period, point blank. When you are a leader and you have embodied that already in you, when times are good and times are bad, it don't matter. You show up with the same respect for yourself and for others. And when I say respect, I mean literally being of your word. Respect, first and foremost, starts with yourself. And that's what people don't embody. They don't understand that if they say, I'm going to get that done by Monday at 3 o'clock, any single person on my team that says that to me, they best know I took them for their word. It doesn't matter if they put it on their to-do board. It doesn't matter if they put it on their Asana, their Trello, their Notion. I don't care where they put it. They could put it on the wall in the Egyptian pyramids. I don't care. What matters is there alignment between what they're telling me they're going to do and what they actually did, okay? Love is action. And so the most important thing when I talk about leadership here is leading by example. And so something that I had a very, very hard time with for the longest time, that now it's literally just embodied. It is a part of my ethereal healthcare, my self-care, my sacred self-care. It is literally just boom, period, piece of me. It doesn't need to be taught. It is already embodied. It's like point, period, this is my standard, the health. All these companies, all these enterprises say that they have a wellness plan for their people, their team members, their employees, their staff, whatever it is you want to call it, okay? And this all has to do with the disgusting system we have of healthcare right now in the United States, okay? And I say disgusting because it's not made to help us be well. It's making us worse. Tell me if you've ever seen a system where the health provider of any capacity, let's call them healers, medical, wellness, whatever, wellness professionals, okay? Let's all group them in one spot. Tell me in any single system where the system itself makes the provider also ill. The United States. 100% the United States does that. I would know. I did it for years, and that's why I left. So many people were like, Z, are you insane? That's crazy, girl. Why would you give up not one, but 2 licenses? Girl, this took you over 6 figures to pay for cash. I did not take loans. So that means that I worked in the salon because I did hair before I was a therapist, and then I retired and then became a coach and then a mentor. Get the idea. Why did I do that? Because once you see, you cannot unsee. I was tired of this. I was literally tired of going to work and working for a system and working for people that would see the problems, see the issues, contribute to the illness for the provider, the person being helped, and the whole entire system being corrupt and crooked. I couldn't turn the cheek anymore. I couldn't be a part of it because that would be me enabling it. And so many people said to me like, Z, but I don't really have a choice. I don't know what else to do. Okay, that is a limiting belief. That's where right there I cut the line between me and so many people that I was friendly with, that I was a colleague with, that said to me, well, I don't have another choice. This is how I feed my family, honey. We always have a choice, period. Point, period, blank. That is a limiting belief. If I know that something is not in alignment with my values, with my internal embodied voiced values, and it's going against that means that whatever I'm doing with my actions and my God-given gifts is not in alignment. Uh-oh, that is not good. That is not going to land anywhere good. Because that means that if I'm out of alignment, I'm going to be burnt out and I'm not working with my gifts according to the plan that Source, higher power, has given me. That's going to end up in me not ending up where I am meant to serve best. And when I understood that, okay, I understood that probably like 4 years ago. And then I was like, dang, I need to create a plan. I didn't just up and leave one day. I didn't. I created a plan. And so for a whole year, I created a plan with my business coach at the time. And I was like, I got to bounce. I gotta leave this department of mental health because this is ruining my own mental health. I can't do this anymore. And then him and I created a plan where he's like, okay, this is gonna be rough though. And here's what I can tell everybody now, years later. Okay, so I'm talking about, I worked as a mental health, I worked as a hairdresser for years, and I was so good at listening to people. I was so good at understanding like what they actually really needed. They needed connection. They needed somebody to actually listening to them. That I understood that I had a higher calling. So then, right, obviously I go to school and I do my thing, my master's, my yada yada, all these things, right? And then it hit me that I was like, okay, if this system isn't working, I need to create one that does work. Then I became an innovator, I became a creator. And then I was held to a higher standard. And here's what I mean by that I was held to a higher standard. I understood that if I had a higher calling, I would be asked to prepare and to be a woman that was more conscious, with more awareness and more courage and all the things 10x. Because if I was asking for more, I needed to be more, period. And that right there is what most people don't get. That in leadership, you need to share and be and do and have action as the person that you say that you are. Here's the formula, and here's what a lot of people are like, Z, but how do I get there? Simple formula, super simple formula, but most people, like 99 to 98% of people, will give up along the way because shit gets hard. It gets hard. And that's where people are like, I have an excuse, insert here. I have kids, I have a family. All the more reason to do it and become the person that you're supposed to for your God-given gifts and your mission. Okay, so here it is. You need to be it. You literally need to be what you are wanting, who you are saying you are. You need to embody it. You want love, you need love, and be love. You need to be loving, compassionate, empathetic, all the things, right? And that's what most people are like, but how can I be so loving when this person has been so utterly not good to me? Mama, that's the lesson. That is literally the gift. When people are not good to us, it's an invitation. It is a calling for us to have better boundaries, for us to have more structure and have more clarity if this person even deserves to have our connection, our empathy, and our energy. Period. That's it. And these things are so clear now, but before they weren't. And this is why I'm sharing all these things. And then this is why, it's popping, finally after years, things are literally just clicking, and people are like, Z, how did you do that? Girl, how'd you call in 60 grand? Girl, how did you get this on your video? And I'm like, I just literally am showing up. I'm showing up scared. I'm showing up maybe some days whatever it might be, but I'm still showing up. People see what is now, but they don't see the last 10 years of what I've been working towards. They don't see that. They don't see the scary moments where I'm like, okay, I have 2 businesses I gotta handle here, and I just had a loss, the biggest loss I've ever had in my life. Well, I just had a breakup, but I still gotta sign these checks, and I still gotta lead these people at work, right? That's leadership. Knowing that all these things that are happening, life circumstance, are gonna happen no matter what. That's what happens. The higher the calling, the higher you need to reach with your ability to problem solve and understand that you are more than those challenges, that you are more than that, and you are made for so much more. So rock with me real quick. The second step here is to have. So once you are already part of the be, right? You already being that individual, you already have that. Then we go into the space of, let me move these mics here. You go into the space of having. Then source, God, universe, whatever it is you believe in or you want to call it, says, okay, cool, they became that, now let me give it to them, now let me have them. Okay, here's the thing, here's, like I'm saying, the layers just get layered and layered and layered as we go. Okay, so check this out, here's what happens. So once you become it, and then you are given said thing, said person, said situation, and you, what some people in the spiritual realm would call manifesting this, right? Okay, so you manifested this person, you manifested this relationship, you manifested this amazing career opportunity. Woosah, awesome, cool, but guess what? You know what the next thing that comes up is, but are you that person that's able to hold it and sustain it? Are you the person that is able to sustain it? Ooh, let me tell you, this lesson I have learned so many times, and I've had to ask myself, how do I sustain this in an authentic manner where I'm not going to go above and beyond my values and not be in alignment with it? So if I'm given this opportunity, does it align with my values? That it's the hardest thing, but not because things change. As you shift, as your person shifts, evolves, becomes more authentically of who you are, your values are going to shift. Before, I used to value so much more time, with people that I was friendly with or friends with. And now, quality over quantity, baby. Quality over quantity any day. I'd rather have 1 quarter than a whole bunch of pennies or dimes. Because what I'm realizing is that when you are a leader, okay, one of the biggest things that you must have is discernment. And a lot of people are like, well, Z, what's the difference between decision-making and discernment? For me personally, decision-making is up here. It's a logical, it's move, strategic. It's you gotta go. And you need that. No, you do. So people say, oh no, you just need to be in your heart and feel it and intuition. Yes, that is discernment. But the issue here is how much do you have of both? Here's the key. You need both. You need both discernment and decision-making for you to have a grounded and be in rest with your spiritual self. You need to be grounded in it to say, okay, I did my logical math and then I did the heart math. And this is probably the best way for me to go. And it's not always going to have a 50-50 shot. And that's what people don't get about leadership and about sustaining something. Something always is going to be out of place in order for us to grow. I'll give you an example. So many times I've asked Source, God, right, the universe, for something. And I've said, God, like, I really, really want this opportunity. I would love to speak on stage at blank place, right? And sure enough, God never says no. God never, ever, ever says no to me, ever. God always says, yes, here you go. I got something better for you. Number 2, I got something better for you. Or number 3, not right now. God never says no. And when I've embodied that, when it has become an ethereal part of me, period, there's no negotiation. So when something doesn't appear in my reality the way I want it to, I have to sit there, right, like a good student, and be like, okay, let me peek this. Let me study this for a minute and see, what is it teaching me? What opportunity do I have here to grow as a human being, or to understand, what is this teaching me? What is this teaching me? And so that's what takes us to that last piece, right? That last piece, which is the sustainability of having. So when you are something, when you're being that, when you are being love, right? And you take action on it, right? And you're showing love to others, you get to have it. You are an energetic match for what it is that you're asking for. And so when I've had those experiences where I've asked for something and something's missing, where I'm like, oh, I got what I asked for, but I wasn't specific enough, that I would have loved for it to have been local and not have to fly out like a 8-hour flight, right? There is always something that grows us, because when something grows us, that means that we're having the opportunity to ascend, to go to the next level of who we are, to go to the next understanding, the next, spiritual people would say, like the next dimension, the next experience you'll have. And that's legit been my experience. That has been my experience. And I'd love to hear what questions you guys have, because I'm just going to keep going here. There's so much for me to share here. So let me go in and see. Somebody said, that's right, girl, 100%. Yeah, exactly. So here's another thing for someone to consider and just think about. What type of leader do you want to be, okay? What type of leadership do you want to give by example to others? And it took me a while to really just understand. And here's what I understood. Leadership is so much easier when it's authentic to who you are, because you don't gotta pretend. You don't gotta tell others and just be like, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's what we're gonna do, but I haven't embodied it yet. It hasn't become already a standard for me. It's a goal, but it's not a standard. And then a lot of people are like, Z, well, what's the difference between a standard and a goal? A goal is something that you're aiming toward. The standard is something internal that you already are like, period blank, this is what we are doing. There is no under that. A goal is something that is still intentional and still in the mind, that hasn't concreted yet. I'll give you guys an example. So for a while, I had friend goals, okay? I had a lot of friend goals, and my friend goals were to do things with certain people that were fun and all yada, yada, right? And then I realized something. My standard for my friends wasn't there. And that's why I had people, not all the time, here and there, that were flaky. They would say, oh yeah, girl, I'll meet you for a hike. And then they wouldn't be up until like 11 or 10 on a Sunday morning, even though they said that they valued nature and they would be there at 8 a.m. Once again, this is nothing I'm pushing on them. This is something they said they wanted. And so when this happened, I had to realize something. I had to ask myself, what piece of me called this in, or what piece of me was okay putting up with this untruth from them, right? What piece of me is okay with people not showing up for themselves and not showing up for me when they said that they were going to show up? And that's when it clicked for me. My voice activated, my entire being activated, and with grace and compassion, I shared with them and said, hey, I don't think we're aligned. I don't think we share values as friends, because it doesn't seem that you understand that your word is you showing me your level of leadership. For me, if I say I'm doing something, I'm gonna do it, period, point blank. And when that happens, people, once again, let's go back to the beginning of the conversation, they're either triggered or you become the trigger. I became the trigger because they're like, either, damn, you're right, let me do better, give me a chance, absolutely, right? You give people chances, you give grace, but you also can't be their doormat. You have to have boundaries. And if you say that, we're good, like, let's move forward, but they do it again and again and again, then think about it. They're not living up to the standards, and neither are you. You're the first one to betray yourself and your standards. So if you say, this is how we are across the board as friends, and this is how we're going to show up, and they're not continuously and consistently showing up as per said agreement, you gotta let that shit go. You gotta let it go because it's gonna drag you down. You are your environment. You are your environment. You are the people you hang around. You are the people that you talk to, the people that you give your most time and attention to. I remember recently that I took a values assessment, and I was actually pretty shocked that one of my values was technology. And I was like, whoa, I could see it, but I didn't understand it. Where it got even more integral and more embodied into who I was is understanding why I use technology, and that was the difference, because I wasn't aligning anymore with friends that would spend hours and hours and hours TikToking or reeling or whatever, like just the dead scroll. They just keep going with nothing on end of consciousness. And then I asked myself, well, how am I using technology? I use my phone to share my story, to create impact, to share my gift. You get the idea. I don't own a TV. And if I use my computer, it's to connect with my work, to connect with my team, to connect with whatever it is I'm needing. And so here was the biggest lesson I learned from the values assessment. Two people can value the same category, but it doesn't mean they're going to utilize it or leverage it in the same way. And here's what I'm saying. You can be in the same environment as people and think that you have the same values, but in reality, you probably don't. Here's a good example. Somebody might say, well, I value being around family. I value family time. Okay, but does the family think that family time is all being around the TV and not talking for hours on end? Or is family time playing a family game or having dinner uninterrupted with no cell phones, no TV, and sincere conversations asking, how was your day? With conscious, emotionally, physically present caretakers. There's such a big difference, right? And that's what I'm saying. You can have the same environment, but it's not the same situations. It's not the same thing. And everything I'm sharing here is literally what I teach people in my programs, in my mentorship, in my courses. And people ask me, like, Z, like, how did you come to these conclusions? Like, how did you get through this? I don't understand. Painfully. I'm literally an alchemist because I turned everything that was painful for me into something that could help grow people in their consciousness, in their actions, and in just literally becoming better human beings. Literally just becoming a better human, period. And that has been my greatest gift. It's so funny because yesterday I had the greatest conversation with one of my team members, and he was asking me, and he's like, Z, like, if you had to bet, any single thing you had, like everything, if you had to bet it on just one main thing, what do you think you do that impacts the world the most? And I was so intrigued by this question. It was so delicious, right? And I was like, ooh, what would that be? And immediately I knew what it was. It just kind of like hit me. I create healing programs for the world. I literally help people die more healed than wounded. That's always been it for me. The question is, in what capacity, right? With what method, with what tools, like how do I want to do it? And as I've been building it and as I've been growing it, right? You guys can go to Zeahlot.com and check it out, right? As I've been building it, so many people have been asking me and be like, Z, I'm curious, like, does this apply to everyone? And you know what? Here's the answer. It does not apply to people that want to stay not conscious. It does not apply to people that don't want to do the inner work, people that don't want to realize that we are all part of the challenge right now. When people talk about the conscious collective, people don't understand that it's a unified effort. I literally come from the understanding that if somebody understands that their own ish that they haven't worked on, that they haven't healed, is going to impact them and continue the ripples of the hurt, we have nothing. So the greatest thing that you can ever do as a human being is to heal yourself, to grow your consciousness and your understanding, your compassion, your empathy, all the light, all the good stuff. But also honor your dark stuff, the ish you haven't worked on. A lot of people in the spiritual community would call it like their shadow, right? A lot of people talk about their shadow self and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. But how are you embodying that? How are you implementing what you know into actual moments? Oh, back to you guys real quick. So recently, I had a tiffle with my sister. And if you have a sibling, if you even have a friend and you've had like a mismatch of something that's just, you're just clashing, you absolutely know that there is something there for both of you for you to learn and to grow with. And if you can have that mindset, you can get through any single conflict on the other end with grace, compassion, and gratitude. And that is literally turning pain into growth, and that's an alchemist. An alchemist is somebody that turns whatever is heavy and mucky and really just not wanted. Let's just call it like all the stuff nobody wants. Nobody wants conflict, nobody wants problems, challenges, just stuff that hasn't been integrated into somebody. And they're able to turn it into gold. They're able to turn it into growth, compassion, all the things that we pray for. That's an alchemist. That is a person that's able to turn something into something somebody never thought was possible. And those are the awakened people of the world. That is literally what I'm leading people on. And I'm saying, okay, so you have this challenge in your relationships, in your marriage, in your business. Praise God, that's amazing. That's beautiful because it's an open invitation for you to look at what still needs to be healed inside you. And people ask, well, Z, like, how'd you come to this conclusion? I came to that conclusion because I have lived through that and I've also seen it in different capacities. So over the years, even as I've studied, the logical part of it, the theories, all the things, right? The books, the podcasts, the leaders, the people talking about mental health and psychology and the health of the brain and all this stuff. Well, there's another layer to that. Then I started to study individuals like Khalil Gibran, like Don Miguel Ruiz, like Mother Teresa, and just individuals that had a whole other level of consciousness and understanding of what it means to be a spiritual being. And when I combine those two worlds, right, like the spiritual, psychosocial, like all these aspects, I came to one conclusion. It's all the same thing. It is 100% the same thing. There's no difference. It's just having the lens and which one you want to look at it with. So when I guide people, when I help individuals through my mentorship services, people are like, whoa, how are you able to see that? Well, I'm able to see it because I'm looking at it through three lenses. I'm looking at it through my human self of like, dang, like that's a challenge. 100% that's a challenge. Then I look at it through a spiritual lens and I'm like, what is the spiritual meaning of this and what is the spiritual lesson? Like, what is the teaching for this human to grow? Like grow in the biggest capacity with its entire being holistically. And then on a biological, human, psychological assessment, what is actually happening here, right? When I take all three things into consideration, which is a triad, I get really great results with the individual. And what I mean by that is they say to me, Z, dang, I had no idea that literally was not only coming up in my business, but that was also coming up in my marriage, and it was also coming up with my friendship. Yes, mama, that's what happens. Because the way you do one thing is usually, I can't say always, but usually how you're gonna do other things. And so if you are a people pleaser at work and you are conflict avoidant, right? Not disrespectful, just conflict avoidant, you're probably going to be conflict avoidant in the relationship where your needs are not met, you are not heard, the communication is not there, or where you're just saying yes, 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 just so your friends won't leave. So you won't be left out, so you'll be invited, so you'll be thought of. All these things that are coming from lower level human energy. It's just lower level existence where it's you're having this energy of like a pick-me. And for the longest time, I struggled with it myself. I struggled with it so much where I was like, why do I have this pick-me energy? Why do I have this fear of this individual leaving? And so I had to look at my core wounds, right? The human 3 core wounds. Is it that I feel unworthy? Do I feel betrayal? Or do I fear abandonment? Which is it? And most of the times, if I'm honest, it was all three. It was a little bit of this, it's like you're cooking, right? A little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, and it was all of it. I was able to get through a lot of this when I was forced to. When my dad passed away in 2021, he died in 3 months. He died like that, and I watched him pass. It was the most spiritual awakening I've ever had in my life, forcefully. Nobody wants to go through that. I don't wish what happened to my worst enemy, not to my worst enemy, and I'm so grateful now for it. If somebody were to ask me, like, Z, like, what was that experience like? It was enlightening. It was so enlightening because I was able to see my own dark parts, my own shadows, my own unhealed ish that was still attracting partners that were taking more than they gave. It was attracting friends that weren't really authentic, and it was attracting parts of me that had to betray myself over and over and over so I could just get through a work day, so I could just get through a friendship, so I could just get through a date, whatever it was. And so the reason I was forced to do the work is because when you have the most amount of emotional, spiritual, physical pain, okay, you are forced, if you have the courage to look at it and to experience it. And here's what I'll share. Khalil Gibran says that pain is the shell that encompasses the understanding. And when I break that down, literally what it means, and it's so powerful that when you embody it, it's literally the code, the understanding, the formula, the solution to any single thing that you go through that is painful, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, all of it, for you to overcome it and for you to convert that into growth and love, compassion, and empathy. So here it is. Pain is the shell that encompasses the understanding. When you embrace the pain and you can sit with it and you can hold that pain for the amount of time that you can, and it teaches you what it needs to, and it teaches you that you need to do blank, that you need to integrate these parts of you that you haven't yet, or face the parts of you that you still are not giving to yourself 100%, you don't have to go through that anymore. That pain dissolves. That's why it's called a disillusionment, and in Spanish it's se desvuelve. It dissolves, it undoes itself. So instead of it being pain, it then becomes understanding. And here's where the next stage comes in that it's so delicious, because for anybody that's experienced this and literally felt it, it's a whole other ball game. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another to have experienced it, and then it's another to have it embodied, okay? I've embodied it now. So when you're able to take that pain and sit with it long enough to where it tells you what it's supposed to, because your being is so intelligent in all its facets, mind, body, spirit, that you already have all the answers you need. You don't need nobody else to be telling you things. You just need to start listening to yourself and give yourself time for your body, mind, and spirit to talk to you. Then it becomes understanding, and then from the understanding, which is knowledge, you embody it, you become it, because then you understand the lesson, then it's embodied, it's wisdom. With embodiment, you get wisdom. And when you have wisdom, all kinds of things start to happen after that. Things don't trigger you anymore. You become the trigger because you don't have that trigger anymore. You become, where people say, light and love. You become not a doormat, but just something that people say to you is like, okay, sure. They're projecting onto you. And it's not a dismissal. I want to be clear. You're not dismissing your feelings or other people. This is coming from a healthy place. This is coming from okay, that's your truth. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And what about that do you want us to work on? That's healthy communication. So many people will say, right, well, I just don't want to have conflict. Yeah, but conflict is such a beautiful gift. When two people, or at least one of them, in a dynamic relationship, whatever it might be, when at least one wants to have conflict in order to solve. Keyword is solve, not just to fight for dumb reasons. To solve something because they are wanting connection. That's a good sign. That's an excellent sign. That is telling you that there is somebody that's still fighting for that connection with you. That's beautiful. And so many people, I remember sharing this with people when I was seeing couples for marriage therapy, and people would be like, what do you mean you want us to fight? And I go, well, conflict and fighting are two separate things. I don't want you to fight. I want you to have conflict. I want you to have healthy conflict and healthy resolution. The key here was not to have my clients fight or have conflict less. It was for them to understand healthy conflict and healthy resolution. And this is a really big part of the healing process, because people usually, once again, I can't say always, like 99% of humans have this understanding. They get into a relationship of any kind. It could be a friendship, a business relationship, romantic, marriage, like whatever it might be, okay? They get into a relationship and they think, this other person is going to make me happy, they're going to make me joyful, and all the things, right? All the rainbows and butterflies. And then dissolution happens, right? Then they get to know the person and they're like, oh, like, okay, damn, I didn't, ugh. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have such a high divorce rate or separation or lies. I can't tell you how many times I heard people saying to me, right, and this is in private, this is literally like if the walls could talk. Clients would tell me, I'm with her sister, but my wife doesn't know. I actually am seeing somebody at work, or we have 4 kids and I'm not happy. I'm actually pretty miserable. I can't tell you how many times I heard that, and that's the thing, right? I was literally in like the front seat ticket. I had a front row seat, a VIP ticket to what was actually happening with humans day in, day out. And there was really no difference if somebody was lying about a partner or somebody lied that they cheated on their diet, that they said that they were going to do no sugar and actually they were sneaking candy bars at work. Like, there's no difference. Like, as humans, we all lie to ourselves somewhere. We all do. And when I realized that the hardest thing for humans to understand is that whatever it is that we want, we actually need to give it to ourselves first. It was so hard because I had to go through it myself to understand what that looked like and what it felt like and where the stuck points were, right? I had to literally become my own avatar, and this is why now it's beautiful. Like, this is why I'm sharing this. I now attract people that are of their word. I now attract people that are, I love it. They're the say less people. I love hearing this because they're like, I tell them the challenge we're having and whatever it might be, like, girl, I'm trying to go to this concert, like friends, right? I'm trying to go to this concert, but I haven't found tickets. They're the say less people. They're like, girl, say less. I got this. And I'm like, wow, that's super cool. Whereas before, I was the healer, I was the leader, I was the problem solver, and that's not the case anymore. It's equality now. It's literally people that say like, okay, well, let's figure this out together. Collaboration, right? In a healthy way. Or if I have a tiffle with someone, they say, hey, listen, let's come to the table, let's figure this out together. Healthy conflict. And it's because I've understood where I am at war with myself. When somebody says, I want growth, but they value comfort more, they are at war with themselves. When somebody has war within them, there is absolutely nothing you can do that will bring them peace or clarity. Nothing. Huge lesson there. Literally, I said that so quick, but let me tell you, people that don't understand that lesson are not going to bring you peace either. And that was the hardest lesson for me to learn in this human experience. That if somebody is at war with themselves, where they say they want growth, but they actually value comfort more, and so they choose not to have difficult, sweaty, muddy, messy conversations. They choose not to be of their word, and they choose to skip the gym. They choose not to eat well. They choose to feed their mind junk and garbage. They choose to mindlessly scroll for hours, all the things. It's not for me. It's not for me to tell them, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. This is the challenge though. There's nothing wrong with those things. The challenge is if they say they want growth. The challenge is if they say they want change, but the behaviors and the actions and the mindset is not changing. They are at war with themselves. Nothing I do as a friend, a lover, a parent, a caretaker, a leader or a coworker, whatever relationship we have is going to change that. That's where a lot of people go wrong in their hiring process. A lot of people will hire people based on potential versus actual. Let me tell you, I've been through it. I've been through it. Where literally we hire people that say, well, I'm able to do this, I'm able to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, it sounds like you're a quick learner. Sounds like you could be able to do blank, blank, blank. And that was the biggest mistake I made. Sounds like you would be able to do blank. My biggest challenge, my biggest weakness is that I see people's potential usually more than they see themselves. And that's because I see my own potential. And because on a daily basis, I ask myself and I make a list and I say, hey Z, where are we at war with ourselves here? And the answer is always the same thing. The answer is, it's wherever we choose to be at war with ourselves. And what do we want to do about that? It's action. Love is action. So if I say to myself, I love myself. Okay, well that also includes having boundaries with the bedtime. That also includes having boundaries with what I place in my body, what I put in my body, how I nurture myself, how I talk to myself, how I support myself. All these things so I can keep and maintain healthy, loving, vibrant energy around me. Like attracts like. If somebody says, I don't understand why I keep dating the same dude, different face. It's because you keep attracting the same dude, different face, because there's nothing inside you that has shifted or changed. So nothing's going to change, mama. Nothing is going to shift there. It doesn't matter how much counseling work you do on yourself. Unless you take the action on what it is that you've already learned, you're not going to embody it. So here's how it works. With humans, we gather information. We're definitely information gatherers, and some people are information hoarders. They will hoard information and all this stuff, but they won't do anything with it. They absolutely will not do anything with it. And it's the hardest thing to look at, because I'm like, damn, there's so much there, potential. So if you take that information and then you understand it, it becomes knowledge, right? Like stored in here where you're like, okay, got it. If I do this, then I'm gonna get this. Yes, input, output, right? Okay. But it's one thing to have the information and another to understand it. That's where you lose a lot of people, okay? They will have the information on how to lead a healthy life that is free of medication, free of pain, free of conflict. I'll insert here, okay? That's what most people either want love, money, or control, period. And relationships, but that goes mostly into connection. People say they want these things, but once again, in order for you to have those things, are you the person that is able to sustain it if you were given it? So many times people win the lottery, people are given tons of money, right, through different means. And then quick enough, they're broke again because they're not the person yet to sustain that and to hold that energy, because they didn't become the person that they needed to become to make that happen in the first place, okay? You can be given something, but it doesn't mean you're ready to sustain it. Recently, there was a conversation between my girlfriends and I, and one of the things that came up is that when people make a lot of great money through their business, but they don't uphold their values or their consciousness level doesn't grow, they're going to end up burnt out doing what they're doing to make that money. 100% that's true, because they're not in alignment with what they're doing to make that money, to make that wealth, because they don't actually have the other parts of wealth. Finance is one part of wealth, but it's not everything. And that's what a lot of people miss. So here it is. So you have information, then you have knowledge. When you embody that knowledge, when it becomes a part of you, when it becomes part of just your standard living experience, where you will uphold your values, authenticity, and all the things, it becomes wisdom. It becomes wisdom to where it's automatic. It's already a part of you. I'll give you an example. Years ago, there was men I was calling into my life that were courting me, and they didn't open the door for me. And so I would just open the door for myself. Until I didn't understand that I kept calling those people in, those men. And so here's what I'm sharing with you. After some time, and after really realizing, I was like, wait a minute, what am I contributing to this? I wasn't attracting men in their masculine because I wasn't the most in my feminine to match that. And so when I would stand by the door and they're like, oh yeah, and then a man that already has it embodied, it's already an internal wisdom for him, I didn't need to ask him. He just did it on his own. And since then, it's become my standard. right? It has become my standard that if a man understands that is a part of me feeling seen, me feeling attended to in that dynamic, in that relationship, and he agrees and I agree, doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I'm just giving you guys an example here, that if we agree to that works for us, it's because I've now understood that if it's embodied in somebody, I don't need to ask them to do it. Just like going back to the conversation about friends, family, team members, whoever it is in your life, if they are already that person that they say they are, you don't have to remind them, you don't have to check up on them in a way that's micromanaging them. They already just are. All you need to do is guide them, to let them know that you're there to support them for their growth, for their journey, whatever it is that they're doing. And so let's end it with this, everyone. I'm sharing with you today, end of the day message is that if you become it and you take action on it, okay, you will have it. That is literally the message of the day. We attract what we are, and whatever it is that you haven't worked on will come up in the next experience you will have with people, places, and things. You are your environment, so if you don't shift something inside you internally, it will show up on the outside either to teach you a lesson or to give you lots of blessings, and we want lots of blessings. So, last message of the day, feel free to visit Zeahlot.com. I'm so excited for you guys to see what it is that I'm offering and how I'm helping the world. See you. Bye.